Hi everyone, good morning. um, Here we are after so long time. I just wanted to talk a bit about the ice dive I did this last weekend because I got a lot of questions. Mainly the same one, how cold was it? No, but I got a lot of interesting questions also, and I would like to talk with you a bit about these questions you may have. And in the meantime, if you still have questions regarding the ice dives, please write it here so I can try to answer all your questions. So of course the question I got the most was how cold it was. It was cold, but actually you should always consider that we're still diving in liquid, which means the water, especially fresh water, cannot reach below the zero, more or less, because after that would freeze. So it's still water, it's still above 0 degrees Celsius. Of course, this would be a bit different if you're diving in salty water. So like at the sea, you could have ice. So like the water freezes below 0 actually. Like you could have colder water, you could have water between -1 or -3 degrees Celsius even, because of the salt and the minerals that are contained in the water, so like it freezes later. But we were in an alpine lake, which means fresh water, which means above 0 for sure. So actually it was not that cold, it was around 4 to 5 degrees Celsius, so not really different from a normal dive in winter here in the lakes. Also in summer here in Switzerland, in case you don't know, we have of course a bit warmer water on the surface, like the first 15 to 20 meters is a bit warmer, but after that the water is never coming above the 5 to 6 degrees. So actually it's constant in the lower layer of the lake. We have constant temperatures, and this is also similar to what the ice dive was. So actually I know it sounds cold just because there is ice and because you're in the mountains and there is snow, but it wasn't that cold. So the water temperature was of course right next to the ice, was around 1 degree maybe, but a few centimeters below, already like 50 centimeters below, was constant in the whole lake at all depth, around 4 degrees. So this was the water temperature. You can survive this. So if you're thinking about doing an ice dive, go for it. Don't be afraid of the cold. I know people who did it in a semi-dry suit. Was a really short dive for them, of course, but it is feasible. I personally went with a dry suit. It's also safer, not only for the warmth, but because in the dry suit you also have some gas, some air, so it can also compensate in case you have problems to the BCD or the wings like we had. So yeah, I went with the dry suit, and actually the only part that was in contact with water was theoretically my head. Then unfortunately I got wet again, like I got some water entering from the neck, so actually I was in contact with water with more than I should have been. But theoretically it was the head, and of course you're wearing the hood. This is really important for the brain, for the vital functions. So the only part that was in direct contact, really without any protection or any layer on top, was like here, where you don't have the hood or the mask, and this part here. So it's feasible, you can survive this. Go ice diving. Water temperature shouldn't scare you. What could be a bit more scary is, however, that you have a whole layer of ice on top and you cannot just resurface wherever you want. So a question I got is, how do you come up? Well, it's pretty simple actually. You just come up again where you went down. So there is a certain thickness that the ice needs to have to be safe to walk on, because of course you're not going to enter from the shore like you would normally do for a dive. You're entering in the middle of the lake, like you walk on the lake, on the ice, till the entry point that is a hole in the ice, and you go down there and you also need to come back there, because that's the only way you're gonna make it out. So SMB you won't need. One question I got was, how do I deploy my SMB? You don't. That, as simple as that. You don't. There is ice on top. It wouldn't work. It cannot work. So the only way of making it out is going back where you entered. There will be, for safety of course, at least 2 holes next to each other, more or less. Where we went, we even had 3 actually, but we just used 2 of them, and then the 3rd one we just kept as safety exit. Nobody had to use it, so it was fine. So yeah, in case they shouldn't close so fast, but in case they close, you anyway have 2, and you have people outside. You're never diving alone, you're never diving without people knowing you're diving, waiting for you on the surface. So like, there are some procedures, there are some methods to be safe, of course. It is a more challenging dive. It is different than just diving in open water. This you absolutely need to take into account. But there are also many measures to make this safe anyway. So yeah, you won't need an SMB if you go ice diving. And of course the next question was, how do I make sure I managed to find a hole again? And especially for us, we really had a terrible visibility. Like, you know me, I dive since many years. I've seen a bit of everything. Good visibility, bad visibility, but this one was terrible. Like, this one was really bad. I really like to see the ice. I had to swim this much below it, like, because otherwise you wouldn't see it. It was really bad. My buddy didn't realize she was coming to the top, and basically arrived with the head right on the ice. Yeah, I guess they heard that from outside too. Anyway, so it is true that you could, with a compass, manage to find again the exit, but of course this is difficult, and I know of people that are really good in navigating. There are people that do cave diving as well, and they did struggle finding the exit just with a compass. So in any case, you're never gonna go down without a rope. So what we did, we had 2 lines. One was binding me and my buddy. You never dive alone, of course, like, because if something happens, you need somebody to take care of you. Like solo diving, no go under the ice. Just, you have one buddy that has an idea of what he's doing or what she's doing and can intervene if something happens. So the 2 of us, we were bound through this shorter rope, this short line, and then one of us was directly in contact with the surface, like they were physically bound to the main line that was held by someone on the surface. So actually you communicate constantly also with the surface. You are not just down there alone. The surface knows at any moment that everything is fine, or if something is happening, and they're ready to intervene if something goes bad. Also, you are not just these 3 people, you have other 2 people that are usually the divers that do the dive after you. Like, you go down in little groups, and the dives are much shorter because of course it's pretty cold, and to be really honest, there is nothing to see. You go down to see the ice actually, because the fish will be hibernated, there's not much going on. And if you're unlucky like we were, you don't even have visibility. So like there was really not much to see for a dive. Like it's really not much going on. So you go down really to see this ice layer, to see the ice from below. And that would probably be even more special if you would see something. But in any case, you go down in little groups. It's around half an hour dive, depending, can be shorter, can be longer, of course. But usually each group was spending around half an hour below water. And there are these other two people that are ready to jump in. They're fully dressed, fully geared up, just sitting there waiting for you either to come out so they can go themselves and enjoy a dive themselves, or if something happens, they're already ready so they can just jump in and come pick you up or solve anything that could possibly happen. You're anyway, as I said, bound to this line, which means you don't go too far away. Like there is a certain amount of meters that you can cover, and after that the rope is finished, so you cannot go further than that. Like you have to circle basically like a shark around the hole. Exactly. So if you lose the exit point, this actually doesn't really happen because you're bound to this line. So you shouldn't be afraid of losing the exit. You're bound to the line. If something really happens that you, I don't know, don't manage to come up for some reason, your body has some problems, whatever, in the worst scenario ever, that you don't manage yourself to come up, you could communicate this to the surface. You can just pull the rope. There is a code basically to understand what is everyone saying. But like if you pull the rope 4 times in a row, it means we have an emergency, pick us up. And the surface receives this message through the rope basically and can drag you out, like they literally would pull you out of the water. So don't be afraid of not finding the exit anymore. We did, and if I did, and you know how bad I am in navigating, then you can do it too. So you will find the exit, and in the worst case, you just communicate, pick us up to the surface, and they will just pull you like that out of the water. But of course, you shouldn't forget that it's a bit more challenging than other dives. It's for sure more challenging than just diving in open water, even if you now forget for a moment the temperature, because having cold water the whole time and bad visibility also doesn't help. Maybe it's also a bit darker, and if you're maybe a sea diver used to tropical locations that are usually, even with bad visibility, it's a great visibility for us. So you should consider that it could be a bit more challenging to navigate, to stay down there, to orientate yourself. So yeah, keep that into account. What helped me really much was really knowing what I was doing and know some theory. Like theoretically, you wouldn't need to make this certification. You wouldn't need to certificate to go ice diving. You could just do it with someone, of course, possibly that did it already. You don't want to go with somebody that has no clue either, but you don't have to have a certificate to do it. But I strongly recommend it because anyway, it's additional certification, so it's not something that will take you months to do. It's just something you do extra, so you are already a certified diver. Like you have to be to do this certificate. You have to have something equivalent, or the certificate itself from CMAS, the first one. So it's really something you could do also if you're not 18. Just in this case, you would need the signature of your parents. But it's not something that you can just do if you're an instructor or whatsoever. You know, I'm not an instructor, I'm a student, so myself, I could go anyway. But doing the course really helped me know what I was about to see, about to do, and how to handle certain situations, because until you go down, you don't know what's gonna happen, you don't know what you're gonna find. We found really bad visibility. Could have been better, but you don't know what you're gonna find until you put your head below water. So you need to be ready for everything, and at least having this theoretical background on not being afraid if the ice has a certain thickness, it's safe to walk on it even if you're fully geared. And, I mean, my gear for cold water is around 40 kilos, if not more. So it's like almost double of my normal weight when I'm fully geared up. And I mean, I was afraid that I would just walk on the lake and it would break below my feet, right? But you learn that after a certain thickness, this doesn't happen, that if you see some lines on the ice itself, it's also not a problem, it's still stable. Yeah, so you learn a lot of these things, and it really helped me calm me down, because even though I did a lot of dives, I was still a bit nervous. I never went diving in such a closed environment. Like if something happens, you cannot just come up wherever you are. You need to swim back to a very precise point. So of course I was a bit nervous. I know I was in good hands, but doing this background course really helped me also mentally prepare for it. So I strongly recommend to do it if you're thinking about doing an ice dive or whatever. Even if you just want to do one, do the certification. It really helps you. It makes you conscious of what you're about to do and how to handle different situations, so that really nothing can go wrong and that you will be safe in any case. That is like the most important part, of course. So yeah. It is challenging, but it's really an amazing experience. And even if we couldn't see really much, because of course the visibility was terrible, we could see the ice from below, even though we really had to like swim like this right below, because there was no light, there was not enough light because of the visibility. So we couldn't see much of the ice further away from us. We could really see like this little region that was just above our heads. But it was really something special, a really cool feeling. So if you have the chance to ever do it, go for it. Don't be afraid of the cold. We discussed this, it's not much colder. You can survive this even with a semi-dry suit. You don't need a dry suit. And you are in communication with the surface the whole time, which means you don't need to be afraid of getting lost, or if something happens that nobody will find you again. If something happens, you communicate it to the surface, you're anyway in two, and the surface will take care of this, which means either they start pulling you out, and in the meantime they send the next two people that will search for you and bring you out. So really, don't be afraid of it. It's really worth it. Another question I got was how we can orientate if we had such a bad visibility. Now, of course, it is easier if you have a beautiful visibility and you have a lot of light coming in. Then you see some references like the ice layer, for example, or the bottom. You really see maybe far away, so you can orientate pretty easily. You cannot do this if you don't see anything. As simple as that. So if you have bad visibility, like in my case, you are basically fully relying on your instruments, which means the compass, of course, to orientate in the lake itself, to hope to find again the hole, the exit hole, and to know the depth. You will just watch your computer. You will always dive with a computer. Guys, don't do bullshit, dive with a computer. Just saying. After, especially in the first dive we did it in the afternoon. So the lake was itself already in the shadow. We didn't have direct light on the lake. And of course, if you don't have direct light, you have even less light coming through, because it was around 25 centimeters thick ice layer, so this filters the light, of course, as well. And the visibility was terrible, so the algae they were also filtering the light. So you really, after the first few meters, was night. It was basically a night dive, and you see it from the video I posted on the profile. Like the fish there, it's basically dark around it. Of course, we were diving with torch anyway. Also the second time, even though we had a bit more light, but you need a torch when you do an ice dive. So yeah, we had really few light, which makes it also really difficult to know how deep you are. Usually, especially if it's an alpine lake, it's not gonna be much deep. We were around 8 meters, I think, maximum. Really not more than that. So you also want to have deco to do, like it's a really easy dive in this sense. Like, you're not going deep, you don't have deco to do, you don't need to use gas mixtures or whatever. So the challenges are other aspects, but on this side it's a pretty shallow dive, let's say like this. The second day instead, we had direct light on the lake itself because it was morning, it was the morning light, so you really could see a bit more. But in the case you're diving already in the shadow, after a few meters, you don't know if you are 5 meters down or 10 meters down or 20 meters. It's just dark. Everything looks the same. So yeah, absolutely, you will need to use your instrument to navigate through this environment. So yeah, I hope I answered some of your questions. If you have any additional questions, please write it now in the comments and I will try to answer this too. And otherwise, I see that you guys are watching from a bit everywhere, also some tropical places, so I really hope for you will get a chance once to dive under the ice. It's really an amazing experience. And if you have the chance, try it. Don't be afraid of it. Go, of course, with people that know what they're doing. So you will be in good hands. You won't have to fear anything. Good. I need to go now, but I hope I could tell you a bit more about the ice dive and how I went through it and how I came back, especially alive. So see you guys on the reels. Have a nice day.